In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how I hit over $4 million a month in my previous business, which was a coaching and a service business. So we were selling high ticket programs over the phone, or over Zoom rather, that were in between around $10,000 to $30,000. And you can see in this month, our record month was July 2023. It was $4.1 million in cash collected. So not like contract revenue, but literally dollars in our bank account off of about $1.1 million in ad spend. So we were about getting back $4 for every $1 we were spending on marketing, which is pretty good. And in this video, I'm going to go over number one, all the mistakes that led to this, because I think it's a misconception, honestly, that a lot of people think every single business, just because it's making a lot of money, is like super well run and efficient and optimized. This was absolutely not that. It was honestly a mess. And there's a reason why after this, we actually started to decline. And hopefully in you watching this, the same doesn't happen to you. But also just all the pieces that go into it, just because the other thing I hear a lot of people think is, oh my God, $1 million a month, $2 million a month, $4 million a month is going to be impossible to hit. It's going to take me years to get there. And the offer that actually ended up making the vast majority of the money here had not even been around for like a year and a half. It was like, I think 18 months old exactly. So you absolutely can scale quickly, but does that mean you should? I honestly don't think so. So hopefully everything in this video can be helpful. Educational purposes only. By no means am I saying that by watching this, you are also going to make $4 million a month, much less $4 a month. I don't know anything about you or your business, and you would be incredibly lucky to be able to make $1 million a month, because very, very few businesses ever actually hit that. So what's first very important to note, you can see here, we had two funnels that were running that were fueling pretty much all of this growth. We had a typical VSL funnel where you can see in that month we spent around $200,000 out of the $1.1 million. And the vast majority of the remainder came from a low ticket funnel. And you can see here, majority of that ad spend was going to Facebook. There was a little bit on Google and barely anything on TikTok. I think we were just getting into beginning to test that. But low ticket funnel, Facebook and Instagram ads, number one thing that was fueling growth for us. And honestly now, 3 or 2.5 years later, this is still the bread and butter that we're using inside of my new companies that we're helping clients implement. Facebook, Instagram, low ticket. We still did spend a good amount of money on YouTube. We spent a good amount of money on good old VSL to book a call. But it's a lot harder to make those work. And if you really want to push things at scale, you need to have a funnel that can convert attention at mass scale. So I have a couple videos on this channel. I'll probably link them below where I talk about how I build low ticket funnels, kind of goes more in depth into this. But that math is important because absolutely, if we had just, even if the marketing was the same, even if it was all the same ads across all these funnels, if we had tried to put that $1.1 million into the VSL, it would not have worked. We would have maybe done like $2.5 million a month. It would not have been good. So the funnel that you are directing the traffic to absolutely will dictate the output that you're getting in terms of cash returns. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, quick background, a low ticket funnel is basically a funnel where you're selling something for $5, $20, $100. Usually it's between $5 and $100. This offer specifically, I think, was $27, if I'm remembering correctly. And you can see here, out of all the money we made, we were making back $344,000 in cash out of the about $1 million that we were spending on ads for the low ticket funnel. So that is about a 0.35 front end ROAS. So like I said before, when we look at all of our marketing, we were spending $1, putting $1 in, getting $4 back when everything shakes out. But on that initial purchase, the $20, $27 purchase, we were technically spending, if you do this math, We were spending $100 to get someone to spend $27 with us. And this is a huge misconception I see with low ticket funnels. The clients of ours that are printing the most money, they usually have a front end ROAS around this. It's usually around like 0.25 to 0.5. There are some where they will make a lot of their money back. Like we have a few clients that are at like a 0.8. So they spend $1,000 on ads. They're already making $800 back from the low ticket sales alone. But that clearly isn't the thing that makes all of the money. We were only making 0.35 back on day one, but then usually within 7 to 10 days, we were ascending them. That's what that little arrow means. And converting that to an overall ROAS of 3.59, as you can see down here. So I think a lot of people get hung up on this idea that you need to make your money back fast. And I can tell you from someone who's now been doing this for close to 6 years, the businesses who can be patient in getting their money back are the ones who are destroying advertising right now. In one of my companies right now, which is a software company where the average ticket, the average client is spending a minimum of $18,000 and some clients spend upwards of $40,000. Our average sales cycle is minimum a week, if not usually like a week and a half. So, and that is it. We're not doing like anything fancy there. We're just doing a traditional book a demo call and get a demo of the software. So that means for a whole week and a half, for a full 10 days, we are floating money out into the universe and hoping that it's going to come back to us eventually. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do. And it's like, obviously, if I'm just like showing you these numbers and you're looking at it from like an objective perspective, it is very easy to be like, oh, of course, if I'm getting $4 back for every dollar I put in, of course I'll do that every day of the week. But I'll tell you, it is a very different thing to actually do when it is your money coming out of your account, it's being charged to your credit card, and you're spending as much as, you know, we were spending. You can see here on the low ticket funnel alone, on some days we would be spending upwards of $16,000, $17,000, $18,000 a day on top of an additional $8,000 a day on the VSL. So in this given month, we were spending $25,000 a day. Can you imagine going 7 days, spending $25,000 a day, or even 10% of that, $2,500 a day? A week of spending $2,500 a day would be like $15,000, $16,000. Imagine just floating $15,000, $16,000 out there with the hope, with the guess that, okay, yeah, this is one day going to come back. The reason I stress this is because by far, if you are building a business that is being fueled by paid advertising, 90% of the game is literally just this. It's the mindset around spending money. And obviously, we had the benefit now of, like I said, this was a product, this was an offer that we had been selling for around like 18 months. So it wasn't like we were literally going into the negative with every dollar that we spent on advertising. We had cash flow that had already been coming in from all of the previous months. But naturally, if you want to grow, if you want to scale with paid advertising, you're going to have to spend more on advertising, which almost always means your outflows of cash are going to be greater than the inflows of cash. And it's not going to be instant. It is almost never, unless you're like in the world's least competitive industry where you are literally the only advertiser advertising to people, unless that is the case, you are almost always going to have a delay. And 7 to 10 days is very reasonable. Like this is after we had a really dialed in process. We had like a super dialed in team. The average is honestly probably like 2 to 4 weeks. So imagine being willing to float more advertising spend for 2 to 4 weeks with the hope that at the end of this month, at the end of the next month, whatever, we're going to be seeing an increase in our cash flow, an increase in revenue. Number one reason most companies don't scale is just they chicken out. Most people chicken out because they go 2 weeks of seeing more money leaving their account than they're used to. They don't see the immediate increase in the inflows and they start freaking out. They start saying, oh, I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable. It's just human nature to feel uncomfortable spending a lot of money. But I'll tell you, the more that you can kind of disconnect your emotion from it, the more you can just look at it objectively. And it's the reason why looking at spreadsheets like this can absolutely help, is because you know you're making an informed decision. This is also not to say the other really stupid mindset is like people just throwing money out there, thinking like abundance mentality and thinking, oh, of course, if I just spend it, it will come back to me even faster. That's stupid as well. You need to be informed and strategic and making precise estimations of what you think is going to happen. You need to be like a scientist. A scientist, if they're trying to figure out, a cure for cancer or whatever, what do? They create a hypothesis. They create an estimation of what they think is going to happen if they combine these two chemicals. Well, what do you think is going to happen if we spend more on our advertising? I think that within 2 to 4 weeks, we're going to be making X amount dollars back. So the biggest two things 100% most people trip themselves up on is having the wrong expectations, not realizing that there is going to always be a delay. But then, even if they are aware of it, then it's just letting their emotions get the best of them. Not being fully disconnected from the money aspect of it and really just looking at the facts, looking at the data. And it's the reason why if you're a beginner, if you're just trying to get your first sales, you should not be running ads. It's probably not going to go well. You should have at least a few $1,000s to willingly burn on advertising, because that is the best mindset that you can have. If you can willingly light $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on fire and just be like, okay, cool, I learned something, that was useful. That is the mindset that is required to win with ads. If you're thinking, I only have $1,500, I only have $2,000, I really need this money to get me sales, you're almost never going to win. I would say just post videos for free on social media and just get your cash flow going, or get some consulting clients, honestly, so you can bankroll the ads properly. Because the benefit of ads is everything that I'm showing you. It has massive scale, massive potential. It is very much like having a money machine where when it's working, you just crank the knobs, you crank the dial up. We had a money machine that was working and we cranked it all the way up to spending $25,000 a day, mainly on Facebook and Instagram. There really wasn't that much else to it. People are shocked that this record month was basically me doing all the marketing with 2 assistants. We had a marketing team of 3 people that was spending $1.1 million a month. And I was the main copywriter. I wrote like 90% of the things that got put out there. I was the spokesperson, so I would record all of the video ads exactly like I'm doing right now. And I spent at least a couple hours every week literally inside of the ads managers. I was the media buyer. And it wasn't that hard. Like I'm not talking about working like 60, 80-hour weeks. Like this was something that was very, very manageable for me and a team of 2 assistants. And the reason is because, again, the benefit of paid advertising is that it is a system that you just crank the knob up. It was not complex. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. All I basically had to do was just take a look at our numbers, make sure that we were on track, that things weren't like breaking or going crazy as we started spending more money. And then it was basically just shoot and test more ads. That's literally it. I have another video on this channel where I go over that. So that, in my opinion, is a great example of how record months like this are possible. I don't really know anyone who's done numbers like this strictly with organic. And I'm sure there's a few, but there are many examples of companies hitting 3 million, 5 million, even 10 million a month that you would never hear of because they're all just fueled by paid advertising. The one other thing I'll mention, just because I've kind of hit on the main point that I did want to go over in this video, which is the expectations and just kind of the mindset and the system of exactly how this worked. I talked about, our main traffic sources, the funnels, etc. The other thing that's very, very important, if you are someone that has a sales team, or if you take sales calls, if you sell anything high ticket, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, you are presumably using a sales call model in some part of it. If so, these 2 metrics are incredibly, incredibly important. These are the 2 main metrics that we scaled and we used to know what I was just talking about before, that we knew that when we increased the ad spend, when we spent more money on our advertising, we were going to get more money back. And those are these 2 metrics right here. The cost per live call, which was $556, and then the cash per live call, which was $1,671. As the name implies, these are averages of how much it costs to get someone on a Zoom call with one of our sales reps. On average, it cost us $550. And then for every Zoom call that our sales team actually talked to, on average, how much did it make us for every single person they talked to? And the average was $1,671. And you can figure these numbers out very easily just by dividing the amount of money that you spent on advertising divided by the total number of calls that you had. And you can do the same with cash per live by dividing the total amount of cash that you made by the amount of live calls that you had. So in a given month, we might have, I don't even know, we were probably taking like 40 live calls a day. So that's 1,200 a month. So it was about actually that can't be right. It must have been half of that. It must have been like 2,400 live calls a month off of 1.1 million in ad spend. If my mental math is correct, basically. Whatever it is, figure these two things out right now. When we were running this sales team at peak, I knew these two numbers by heart. I knew these two numbers down to the day, down to the week, because these two numbers are your financial heartbeat. These two numbers tell you how well is the money machine working. And if any one of these two numbers started to decline in the wrong direction, so that would mean our cost per live call increased or our cash per live call decreased, we knew this is something that we need to fix. And there were a lot of kind of contingency plans and backups that we had if either of those two things had been the case. The two most common things, we would see this happen. Cost per live call would rise if we literally just forgot to reload our scheduling account balance with SMS credits. So we sent like 5 pre-call SMS reminders, like saying, hey, your appointment is tomorrow. Hey, your appointment is in 3 hours. Hey, your appointment's in 1 hour. For some reason, it wasn't on like our auto reload. So when it ran out of money, those text messages just stopped sending. And when that happened, we would literally instantly, in the next couple days, you would see an immediate increase in the cost per live call because people aren't getting the reminders. They're forgetting to show up the appointment. Now it's more expensive for us. We're wasting money on advertising by not getting more of the people that we're already paying to reach to actually show up for their call. For the cash per live call, the biggest reasons that we would see a decline or a decrease in performance there was usually related to closers. So if a closer had an off month, if they were mentally kind of like checked out, if they were just kind of getting distracted with something else in their life, we would notice this. We would notice that change as well, where it would go from like 1,600 maybe down to like 1,000, and that wouldn't be good. What's really useful about these two metrics, if you do have a sales team or if you just have multiple sales reps, is you can measure both of these metrics down to the person. So let's say you have 3 salespeople, Mark, Tony, and Rob. I can look at on a given month how much it costs to put an appointment on Mark's calendar and then how much Mark makes me back. And if you do this, if you map these things out for each individual salesperson, and if you are someone that's also taking sales calls, you can map it for yourself, you will start to see some really interesting things, which is number one, closers will have very different abilities to get people to show up, because some closers, as you might know, maybe aren't sending pre-call reminders. They're not confirming their appointments. They're not following up with people to make sure they actually show up. They just show up at the scheduled call time, and then if the person's not there, they just give up. And we saw that with some of our lower performing salespeople, that they would have a worse cost per live call. It would be like twice as expensive for us to put a call in their calendar versus on anyone else's. We're like, what the hell is going on? We dig into the CRM, we figure out they're just not sending the pre-call reminders. If someone no-shows, they're not saying, hey, where are you? Can we do a phone call or something? They're just letting it go. So this level of granularity is super, 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 super important, because you're going to see spots of inefficiency. You're going to see where people are being lazy, when they're not following the system, they're not following the SOPs that you've put in place. And you'll also be able to see who the killers are on your team. And you can obviously look at who's making the most money, who's bringing in the most cash flow, who has the highest close rate. But what I'm concerned about is how efficient is a salesperson. Because I could give one salesperson 10 appointments and the other 2. And they could both have the same outcome. They could both close one person. And if they both close one person and the deal amount is the same, why am I giving this person 10 appointments and this person only 2? If this person closes at 50% and they're extracting much more value out of the calls I put in their calendar, I should be filling that calendar up because it's better for me as a business owner. It's better for the business as a whole. So when you get down to this level of granularity on a salesperson level, you will start to see some really interesting things. You'll see things you maybe don't want to see. You'll see that some salespeople, I wouldn't say they're lying, but most people in any system are going to be as lazy as it lets them. They're going to do the bare minimum work required to make the maximum amount of money. That's just extremely, extremely common. unless you are hiring for a position where there's like extremely strong cultural fit, which is important. But if we're honest, if we're talking about salespeople, they're usually just trying to make money. That's what a salesperson does. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to make sure that that's not harming your business by giving them appointments that could be going to maybe some of your other salespeople who are being more efficient with the marketing dollars that you're spending on them. So that's the one thing I'll leave off with here. These two metrics, know them really, really well on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and know them for the individual reps on their team. So hopefully this video has been useful. We can definitely talk about any other aspects, of hitting this record month as well. If it is useful, leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you all soon.